can I start in the same way that many others have done and pay thanks to Lancashire County Council and Burnley Borough Council for all they've done to support our local residents get through COVID. From providing social care to our most vulnerable residents and working with businesses to get them COVID secure, through to administering so many of the government support schemes that have proved essential to keeping our economy going. Whilst not everything they do is in the public sight, lots of it is behind the scenes, it is essential nonetheless. Unfortunately though, some of the lines coming from the Labour Party in this debate are simply untrue, and their approach to funding now seems to resemble that of Goldilocks. It doesn't matter what's done, how much is provided, or what the scheme looks like, it's never quite right. Mr Deputy Speaker, I made a promise to the people of Burnley and Padiham that I would bring government focus and government investment. And this funding settlement and the broader actions that the government is taking demonstrates that's exactly what we're doing. This is a government that is laser focused on levelling up and tackling COVID-19. In the last year alone, more than £11 billion has been provided to local authorities. Mr Deputy Speaker, that includes more than £50 million to Burnley Council and £141 million to Lancashire County Council for nothing other than COVID. And let me break that down, Mr Deputy Speaker, because that funding has helped residents, it's helped businesses and it's helped families. So just for Burnley, total grant funding, the funding for businesses, £34.27 million. Council tax hardship funding, £1.48 million. Business rates relief, £11.1 million. Domestic abuse services, £95,000. Self-isolation grant funding, £114,000. Funding for a community champion announced just the other week, another £100,000. Compensation for lost income, stuff like car parking charges, £350,000. Reopening high streets, £78,000. Mr Deputy Speaker, the list goes on. And then you've got extra funding for the council just for its day-to-day services that have been impacted by COVID-19. Things like refuse collection and green spaces. For Burnley, that's £2.11 million. And that isn't to mention the extra £2 million that the Prime Minister announced as part of his shovel-ready schemes for Pioneer Place in Burnley Town Centre, something the local Labour Council likes to avoid mentioning. Mr Deputy Speaker, does that sound like a council that is seeing government funding withheld? Does it sound like a government that is going back on its promises to do whatever it takes? I don't think it does. And this approach continues into next year too. That is evident from the finance settlement that we're talking about today. Now, my Labour council leader likes to claim that it's never enough. He was in the press just the other day saying we've had an increase, but. Well, there is no but, Mr Deputy Speaker. When you look at all of that funding that I've just spoken about and you add it all up, it translates to £24 per capita in Burnley. £24 per person to deal with COVID-19. That's in addition to the core grant that the government provides the council for its day-to-day services, and it's in addition to the income it gets from council tax. Compare that to the national average, Mr Deputy Speaker, of £15 for a typical district or borough council. £24 for Burnley, £15 on average. Now, I will never stop lobbying the government and standing up in this House to ask for more support for Burnley, and the front bench know that's the case. And I will work with whatever administration we have in Burnley Town Hall. But we have to focus on the facts. And the facts show us that this government is providing the support that's needed. Core spending power going into next year will be higher than it is this year. That's not a government that's taking money away, that's a government that's supporting residents across Burnley and Padiham. None of us should apologise, though, Mr Deputy Speaker, for trying to ensure value for money in town halls. Every penny spent in a town hall is money either raised through council tax or money raised through general taxation. But it all comes from the same pot. It all comes from the same local residents and local businesses that work day in, day out to earn that money. So I would say, Mr Deputy Speaker, we need a bit more transparency. If local authorities are going to raise council tax, then they need to be much clearer about why they're doing it, particularly if they're inserting that but at the end. We've had more funding from government, but. Well, it's that but that tells you you want to increase council tax. So residents should feel free to write to their local councillors and say, well, what is it that you need the extra money for that isn't being provided by government? Because the answer can't always be more tax rises. We have to squeeze every penny and pound out of the money we give to our local authorities. That's what our residents deserve.